We have 5 kids, 3 businesses.
In
We
two
live
different
in 2
states.
different states. We have a nonprofit. We have a lot going on,
Yep.
right? And so how do we do it all? Like, we have had to be really intentional about designing the life that we want to get what we want, to get more of what we want. And we're always kind of tweaking and refining to get more of what we want. And I think that bottom line, it comes down to intentionality.
Hey,
Hey,
happy podcast day.
thanks. Here we are again.
Doing it together. Why?
Because we're better together.
Better together.
We need a theme song.
We do. Otherwise, it's just two nerds saying better together every week.
Maybe we'll get there one day.
Someday.
Yeah.
If you want to write us a theme song, do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Welcome back to the Better Together podcast. I'm Amanda. This is Joben. Today, we are going to talk about getting more of what you want from your life. How do you do that? Being a family of 7, how we get clear on our priorities, how we manage it all, how we figure it all out. And so we're going to get into a conversation talking about the practical things that we do and some, high level stuff about our family core values and attracting people into your life that you want in your life and that you want to do life with, and, getting more of what you want and how to do that in an intentional way, designing your life before someone does it for you. Let's jump in.
Let's do it together. Why?
We're better together.
We're better together. What a nerdy thing to keep saying. I love you.
Love you too. Okay, so oftentimes I have people comment that we must be so busy.
So busy.
Do you feel busy?
No.
Neither do I.
No, I don't.
I had a friend say one time to me that his life was really full. And I really like how he said that, because I feel like it's a great way to frame being busy,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't feel busy. I feel like our life is full, but I don't feel like I guess I like equate being busy to being a busybody.
Hectic and frantic. That's what I equate it
Right.
to. That's
And
interesting that you think busybody, because I think like hair on fire.
Well, yeah, that's
No control.
That's what I mean.
Okay. I think busybody, I think like in
Like a
other
meddler.
people's businesses.
Yeah. I think anyone can be busy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, whether you've got a lot going on, not a lot going on, whatever, anything in between, you can be busy. You can busy yourself.
I think it's like a nice fancy way to say frantic,
Maybe, yeah.
like running in circles.
Yeah.
I think we're effective with our energy
Mm-hmm.
and that our life is full
Yeah.
and our house is full. I pointed that way because that's the direction of our house.
Uh-huh.
But when people are like, oh my gosh, you must be so busy, I just think of all the people that say, I'm so busy. And
Right.
we don't say that.
Like an excuse.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so busy.
Right.
I would love to have dinner with my kids 5, 6, 7 times a week, but I'm just too
so
busy.
busy.
So busy.
Yeah,
Really?
so
What are you doing during that time? Oh, I'm catching up on all my shows. Like, oh, okay.
we catch up on all our shows,
Yeah, but not when the kids are awake.
but look, we have 5 kids,
Mhm.
3 businesses.
In
We
two
live
different
in 2
states.
different states. We have a nonprofit. We have a lot going on,
Yep.
right? And so how do we do it all? Like, we have had to be really intentional about designing the life that we want to get what we want, to get more of what we want. And we're always kind of tweaking and refining to get more of what we want. And I think that bottom line, it comes down to intentionality. And most people, I find, are not intentional about the way that they live and the things that they do and what they invest their time and their resources in. They're just going about the day to day. So how do you...
And it takes a full day to do a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes the
Every
entire
time.
day.
Every single
time.
time.
It's a full 24 hours to get through it. So I think people look at that and they're like, how could I do more? There's only 24 hours total.
Right.
Like, I love like give 110%. There is no 10% about beyond 100. There's just
Right.
100, right? Give 25 hours of your day. There is no 25th
And we all
hour.
only have our 100%, and that looks different for
Yeah.
everyone,
Yeah.
right? Like, we've touched in previous episodes about personalities, and someone who's wired more like you, who's extroverted, and someone who's wired more like me, who's introverted, might have more or less capacity, right? Like, when we're talking about their 100% that they have, that they can dedicate towards a one thing. So when you're trying to do life and get more of what you want and live intentionally and give your 100% or figure out what that is, like, what are the ways that you can do practically to do that? I think for us, one of the things that we've gotten really clear on are our values. And it's taken a long time. We've been married for almost 20 years. And over the course of those 2 decades, we have discovered what our core values are, not just for our business, but for our family.
Yeah.
And I think that once we got clear on what those core values are, we got clear on our priorities, because we discovered, like, this is what we are, this is who we are, this is what we adhere to, and things that are outside of this just don't align with us. It creates boundaries for us and for our children and for the people who we encounter.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you talk a little bit about how we came to the core values that we have as a family? Maybe we can share what those are and talk about what those mean to us.
Well, we've talked about it in a different podcast episode about how the values were already there. It was a matter of, like, articulating them. Like, the filters were there, the why was there, but articulate them in a way where we can put them out, and then now we can say, like, is this aligned with our stated values? Once we picked 4, 4 is a good number. It's easy to remember. It's not 11, it's 4. And so we can remember them, our children can remember them, and we can say things to them when we're making decisions. We can say, like, hey, this is aligned with this value of ours, and this is why we're doing it, and this is why we're doing it this way. It gives, kids ask why all the time. Why? And part of it is, if you're honest with yourself, it's because they have no information. They just want to know why. What are we doing?
You can't really fault them.
Yeah, you can't. You do in the moment. we not you. In general, we all do in the moment, because we're like, so many why questions. But for us, articulating them then gave us much quicker answers for the why. Why are we in it? Well, we're a help first family. It means we ask, what more can we do? Not if we've done enough. So yeah, I understand we've done this and this and this, but help first means that we just help, and then we figure out, like, we ask our questions, we refine and define things, we figure out better ways to have a bigger impact. But we just start with helping. We help first.
They're a guiding light, right?
Yeah,
like, so they give you permission to give a pat on the back, a kick in the pants. They create boundaries. So I heard you talk about one of our core values. Let's talk about all of them. So we have 4 core values. They're help first, pursue excellence, own it, and have fun.
And we are fun.
Well, we are fun.
We also do have fun.
Yeah, we do have fun. So let's talk about what those mean.
Well, first, I like the way we phrase it. We are. We do. Like, we're saying, we're claiming it, and then we're pursuing it, right?
We pursue excellence.
Yeah. And we define stuff, right? So we pursue excellence means we've never arrived. And so if people are like, oh yeah, I already learned how to do that. It's like, okay, but could you be better at it? Could you put in a few more reps? Could you serve the community, your family, yourself better by being better at it? Let's pursue excellence instead of good enough, right?
And I think it helps you, when things don't go right or things don't go your way, you can look at that situation and say, well, how could I have pursued excellence?
Yeah.
How could I have...
We show up well and on time. Like, I love that we defined it. And EOS guided us to do that. I think of the We Are Fun one, right? We are fun. Right. Yay. Why'd you do that? It was fun. It's like, okay, but we define We Are Fun as no drama.
Right.
Right. And so you doing that created a lot of drama. And so
maybe you had fun.
Yeah, so maybe you had fun, but we are fun. You did not live according to that guideline because of how we define it. And that's an important step. It's not just saying words. We've talked about this in other episodes where, we mirror back what we hear to each other and to the kids so that we make sure we're hearing what they're intending to say, not just the meaning we construe from their words, right? Because we all use words a little bit differently. We all understand things a little bit differently. So when we say we are fun, one might be like, oh, this is a license to shoot kids with a paintball gun out the window when they're in the backyard. No, it's not. It creates a little bit of drama, right? And so I love that. I love that we've taken that step to actually define what they are. Help first. We don't ask if we've done enough. We simply ask, what more can we do? We own it. I love that one because that's hard. And your values should be something you're aspiring to, not just a description of the things that you do that are easy, right? And so we own it. Well, what if What if the other person wrecked the whole space? What if it's all their fault? What if they ruined the story? What if they created the problem? Okay, could I have responded more patiently? Like what can I own in this? And so we talk about the 5, right? Because it's easy to say like, okay, we've just had a conflict. Amanda and I are disagreeing about this. Okay, it's never 100% one person's fault. So fine, I'll take 5%. You're still 95% at fault. But if you start with 5%, you've started with it not being either or. You started it with it being both already, even 5%, right? And as long as you don't say the word 5%, they might hear you accepting a lot more than 5% of the problem. So even if your brain, you need to say 5 just to get started, and different personality types they navigate that type of conflict differently.
But like bottom line, you're on the same team.
Bottom line, on the same team. And if you can come in with 5%, I'll use an example with an employee. Man, we were having problems. And I knew there were problems, but I didn't cause the problems. I was very clear with what I expected. It was quite obvious where the disconnect was and where the gap was between expectation and experience, right? And so when I get ready to sit down and talk with this person who was working for us in leadership, I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. I told him exactly what to do, and he just went and chose not to. Mm-hmm. And then it didn't work exactly like I told him it wouldn't work. None of that is going to help the conversation move forward. And so what I did in that conversation is, in the first 2 sentences, I clearly articulated what was at stake. And then the very next thing was, I want to own my part of the problem. And so I said, we're sitting down in the first week of June. I was aware of this challenge and this issue in February. It is my fault that we are starting today. I should have addressed this in February, and then we could be, 3 months, an entire quarter into solving, resolving, and moving on from this. And instead, we're starting today. And that's my fault. And so I want to own that and ask for your apology. I'm really, really sorry that I did not prioritize this where I should have, and I did not put it on my calendar to have this conversation at the end of February when it should have happened. Yeah. And so I apologize. And so I started with owning it, and then I followed up by saying, I'm going to work very hard to fix this situation and do my part and participate in the solve, but I'm not going to work harder than you. And so you're going to have to meet me on this one. We're going to work together. That's a very different conversation than sitting down with a leadership team member and being like, I told you and you didn't. Mm-hmm. Fix it.
Yep.
Right. And so, I had that experience, and then we were like, this feels like a family value. Like, can we own it? Right. And we have 2 kids that are wired very similarly to each other. And so they bonk, 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 they bonk heads sometimes.
The cat and the dog.
Yeah. And so sometimes we talk about, to them, we're like, she did, he did, she did. And it's like, yeah, okay, but could you have responded in a way that made this so it didn't escalate beyond the initial frustration? Like, well, yeah. Would it have been less stressful and challenging and annoying and frustrating for you if it never escalated beyond the initial frustration? Well, yeah, I guess so. Okay, so did you participate in making this into a bigger deal than it was? Yeah. Right? We've had that conversation with them, both of them, individually, right? And I believe we experience significantly less conflict in our household because they know they're going to be asked to think through and produce what their 5% was. They know they know that, right? And so when you're in the middle of an argument, you're like, yeah, and you're already thinking, I'm going to have to own part of this. You change what you say, you change how you behave, and you pull out of it a lot more quickly and try to seek a resolution. So right. It is impossible to expect people to live in a little bit smaller house than what is typical for, especially certainly in this area we live, a little bit smaller house with a lot more people in it. It's challenging, especially going through something like COVID, where we're just, we're in California, we're locked on our property. And I believe that we've gifted our kids with tools to not just get along with everyone who agrees with them all the time and is easy to get along with all the time. We talk and we say, like, do people have to agree with us 100% for us to love them and be kind to them? That's pretty selfish if that's how you're wired. Yeah. But that's how many people are.
Right.
And so I love that our core values have an underlying theme of hey, we're going to show up in kindness and love, and we can be different and still get along. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
If every piece of the puzzle looks exactly the same, when you put the whole puzzle together, it's not much of a picture.
Right.
And so I love that our kids are painting beautiful life pictures because they're attracting and interacting with people that are different than themselves. And that's not scary for them.
Absolutely. How do you think that core values in a family are different than family rules? You know, I think every household has a set of family rules, right? Like a code of conduct. How are core values different than that?
I rarely see a parent ask the kid for what are the 3 rules we're going to enforce. But when you're talking about core values, you're talking about something that's already there, and you're asking them like, how do we live out we are fun? Like what describe our family, right? Put a bunch of words on the board. And so it's a process you can do together with your children when they're still really young. Maybe you and your spouse have made them for each other, for the couple, which is the first version of the family, and maybe you're bringing kids in, I think you have to be willing as a parent to understand that new dynamics can tweak and adjust core values, the most core tenets, right, of what makes your family unit what it is.
Yeah.
And so rules are black and white. Do this, don't do this. That's, that is the worst for an entrepreneur. We don't love that. Values are completely different statements. They're feelings, they're thoughts, they're actions, they're filters, right? And so a value is a way of life.
Yeah.
And a rule is don't cross this line. And I think as a kid, we get enough rules.
Yeah.
And then we get older and we get even more rules. And if you're an entrepreneur, you don't change and become more appreciative of rules.
Right.
You learn that rules are important and that they're part of, rules define process. Core values define like the soul of who you are as an organization and a family.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the main difference is like one is defining the process of like, what makes this work? Those are the rules, right? You know the rules. And the values instead they're an invitation to be a part of something.
Right.
And so when we say like, oh, but that's not one of our values. Like, this is a lot of drama. Like we're inviting them like, oh, remember what we've agreed on as a statement of value of who we are. You're part of this.
Yeah.
So let's live this out. And what's cool about putting multiple different personalities together in a family is that you're going to have different versions of those values, but collectively you make up the family core values, right? So I'm going to have one for sure that I'm more easily able to live out. You're going to have one or two. The kids are going to have one.
Sure.
But together, these are the core 4. And I think each individual, it's important to realize that you have your own set of core values as a person. I have my own set of core values as a person. Together, we have these 4.
Yeah.
And so I have other ones that are probably prioritized higher for me than they would be for you. And the kids will have the same thing.
Sure.
But then we connect back on these 4. And we say over and over again, it's okay to have different values in addition, but these are our 4 that we all agree on.
As
with
a collective
rules,
unit.
you're like, no, don't bring a different rule in here. These are our rules, right? So I think they're a lot more strict. So as an entrepreneur, I'm wired to appreciate 4 core value statements rather than 4 rule statements.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I just wanted to note there's a really great website called Think to Perform, Think and the number 2 Perform, where you can do a personal core values assessment to figure out your own personal core values. And that's a really great thing to bring up because, we met when we were in our early 20s and now we're...
Well, I wasn't in my early 20s.
You were in your mid-20s, close enough. But we were in our 20s and now we're in our 40s. We're different people now, right? And so... we have a collective agreement, right? And this set of collective values, but we also are different people. We're wired very differently and we're growing and evolving and things ebb and flow and we love each other more for that. And as we grow and evolve and change, we, our own personal core values might grow and change and evolve. And that's good. That's what's meant to happen as a human. But we come together collectively on the same page as a family unit with these core 4. So our core values definitely unite us, and we are a very focused, driven family, right? And so going back to that statement, like, you guys look so busy, or, I don't know how you do it all. I can't figure it out. How do you do it all? How do we do it all? What would you say? What would be the number one thing that we do that really helps us to do more, get more out of life?
I think it's tied into the, there's only 24 actual hours in a day. There's only 365 actual days in a year. And every one of those has a square on the calendar. And if we don't go in and intentionally design out how the calendar is going to look, how each day is going to be used, high level, then our calendar just happens to us. Right? May just shows up. Then we say things like, oh my gosh, can't believe it's already May, right? And you're like, I haven't done anything I want to do this year. If you sit down before the year starts and you map out the 4 quarters of the year, and the first thing you put on there are the non-negotiable things that I want to accomplish this year. If you say, I want to go to 2 big conferences this year, 1 professional development and 1 personal development. Okay. Good luck figuring that out towards the end of November when you realize you haven't done them yet.
Right.
But ahead of time, now you research it, you figure out the dates, you go and you put it on the calendar. You're like, June 14th through 16th, I'm going to go to this personal development thing, right? This is an example. Then, okay, we need to go spend some time with our business on Oahu. Super painful. We need to go to Oahu. We need to go check on that business and put some FaceTime in over there. Let's leave on the 15th. That'll give us 2 weeks over there. Then we pull up the calendar like, oh, no, actually, I prioritized this personal development conference, professional development conference. So let's go on the 17th and then just extend it over there. So now you fit the things that you were already going to do, like we're going to go check on that business, go as a family for 3 weeks and stuff. That's going to happen. But if I didn't put the other stuff on the calendar first, my priorities for the year, the things that I really wanted to do to feel like I had accomplished and done what I wanted this year, if that's not already on the map, it is really hard to plug that in on 1 calendar. It is much harder to plug it in on 2 calendars and then 7 calendars, right?
So you're diving into something that we do. I have a dear friend, his name is Scott Rusnak. He wrote this book called The Entrepreneurial Field Guide, and in it he talks about...
Entrepreneurial Field Guide. Entrepreneurial, one of the hardest words to spell. Field.
Right. Forget about it.
Another one that the E and the I.
Except after C.
And field, another. Good luck.
He wrote this book.
Entrepreneur's Field Guide. I'm saying it enough times so people look it up. Google it. The Entrepreneurial Field Guide. Right. Scott Rusnak.
Right.
At this point, they should have written it down, so I'm not going to say it again.
Very good. So we read this book, and we've been using this idea, this concept for years now. And it's all about designing your life before somebody does it for you. And it's just such a genius concept, especially for an entrepreneur, but even if you're not an entrepreneur, for a busy family. And I really love what you said about priorities. I think that that's what it all boils down to, is getting clear on your priorities, getting those things on the calendar. So I heard actually this morning, I was watching a reel and they were talking about going to the gym. And if somebody says like, I'm going to go to the gym 2 days this week, great. Like, you have great intentions to do that, right?
Yeah.
But the odds are you're probably not going to. If you say, I'm going to go to the gym on Tuesday at 9 a.m. and on Thursday at 12 p.m. and you put it on your calendar,
it's happening.
The chances that you're going to do it are significantly higher.
Yeah.
So it's just taking that concept and designing your entire life, 365 days a year, like doing that, right? And so what we do is we get together once a year. And this is a rolling 12 calendar. And so the idea is to update it every 90 days, right?
Once a year's the big.
We do this big planning session, right? So we get this big desktop calendar out, and we take out the kids' school calendar.
What's the calendar called? The big one?
Well, I don't want to plug that. And I don't use that one. So, but we get just a big desktop calendar. Let's keep it simple. And then you get the kids' school calendars out. You get your, we have seasons tickets to LAFC. We're big LAFC fans. And so a priority of ours is to be at every home game because we have seasons tickets.
What's LAFC? Let's talk about that for just 30 seconds. Los Angeles Football Club. Are you a diehard fan?
I am.
Have you marked your body and soul?
I may have a tattoo.
What?
So we're big fans of LAFC. We want to be
one of your early hooks getting me into your life was you told me you loved soccer, and you admitted later that was a bit of a play.
It was a fabrication.
Yeah, but now your body's marked.
Yeah.
With the logo of a soccer team.
But I did tell you from day one, I do love watching live sports.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay.
You didn't hear me clearly, obviously. But no, what I'm getting to is like we get really clear on our priorities, get all of those dates, like you're talking about, there are non-negotiable conferences or family vacations or family reunions or birthdays or whatever those things are.
You know what we even do is because it's on there, we have experiences where we're not able to do what we'd like to do on one of their birthdays. But because we plan so far in advance, we don't tell them the week before, oh, sorry, buddy,
Right.
sorry, guys, it's not going to happen. We tell them 4 months ahead of time, hey, on your birthday, we're going to be traveling. And so would you rather have a party with all your friends over the week before or the week after? And there's no last minute freakouts. It's just like, it's all planned.
Right.
And so a lot of times when you have issues with your kids having these big reactions to stuff,
It's sprung on them.
It's sprung on them. They don't know.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. The why.
Yeah.
The why. It's because they don't know. No one tells them.
They don't really have like a concept of time.
Yeah.
They don't really understand what's happening. They don't know really what's coming, right? Like we're privy to that, but
Yeah.
they are not. And so it's like
During the summer, our kids are wired differently, but some of them will be like, what are we doing today? What are we doing this week? Can you tell me just like, what's the list?
Right.
What's up?
Because kids thrive on predictability,
Structure.
and
Yeah.
schedules.
Yep.
And so to provide that for our kids has been a huge gift.
Yeah.
But for us, it's been really cool to be able to get clear on our priorities, get those things on the calendar for the entire year, and be able to know what to say yes to and what to say no to. No is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
And it's something as owners, bosses, entrepreneurs, parents, we have had to get really good at saying no to things, because when you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So if you're saying
no
yes,
to everything else.
if you say yes to an opportunity, even if it's a great opportunity, you could be saying no to your children. You could be saying no to yourself.
Yeah.
You could be saying no to other opportunity. It doesn't matter what it is, but you're saying no to something. If you're saying yes to something, you're choosing, right? Like, and you want to make informed choices, and choices that are best for you and best for the people that you love. And so in order to do that, we get really clear on our priorities and really intentional about scheduling out our calendar. That being said, we leave room for spontaneity.
Yeah.
Things do ebb and flow, stuff changes, and we are able to adjust accordingly. But I think that getting clear on our priorities and calendaring out our life, designing our life before someone else does it for us, because that sounds like a nightmare and something that we don't want. I think that it's really served us well.
Yeah,
and so I highly recommend checking out that book, and also spending the time getting really intentional with your partner or just with yourself and getting clear on your priorities and your calendar and scheduling things out. So, designing your life and having core values and creating goals, that sounds really good. And I'm a professional business coach, and so this is what I do for a living. This is like my jam. So I'm pretty good at it, and you get to benefit from that.
100%.
But if you're not a professional business coach and this is not your line of work, or you're not really good at it, and you're like kind of like, well, okay, that all sounds really good, but like, where do I even start? What do you think people can do to start getting clear on what they want?
I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but the calendar is a way that somebody without any guidance or any coaching can sit down. The key is not to do a 2024 calendar on January 20th, 2024. The key is to do it ahead of time.
Yeah.
And to stay high level. Think 30,000 foot view. Think of like, okay, who are, if you have a wife and kids, put their birthdays on there. Mm-hmm. Just put it on there. You don't even have to put a plan on it yet. Just put it on there, right? What are we doing for Christmas this year? So we think about the big, we start with like the big times. Christmas, what is our plan? Thanksgiving, what are we doing for our plan? Spring break, what are we doing for plan? Do we have a summer plan? Like we think through those different stages of the year and these different seasons, and we're like, so we break it down, right? So we might go we put the birthdays on first, and we put the LAFC games on because we know we want to do that. Now, are we going to skip some LAFC home games? 100%. But we put it on there so we know we're skipping it. We're not surprised, and then we're not bummed out when we miss a game. We know, right?
Right.
We give the tickets to a friend, or we sell them. But it's part of our plan, right? So I think the first thing to gaining control over your year and getting control over your time is to actually map it out in a visual way so you can see your time.
Okay.
You know, half the population is audio and half is visual as far as how we learn. And so someone in your family is a visual learner, and seeing it clarifies everything you've been saying. And so, you know, also the more senses we engage in something, the higher the retention rate. And so just thinking about Christmas is like, that's a bit of a help, right? But writing it down, there's a sensory like input. Seeing it visually on the wall, there's a sensory input. Touching it, you know, talking about it, telling someone, those are all different senses. So we can gain a clearer picture of our year, and then we can start to say yes and no to things that serve that bigger picture.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm a big fan of visualization and manifesting and just like all, you know, bringing things to life visually.
But you think of manifesting a little different than some people. Some people think of manifesting as like, I put it out in the universe. You think of manifesting as I name it and then I go claim it.
Right.
So there's an action that follows the naming.
Right. So, you know, it's important. I think so. What it comes down to is getting really clear on what you want and then making a plan, setting goals to achieve that. But if you like, people love to set goals. They love to set a New Year's resolution or, you know, like goals are all fun. But if you like, are they really tied to what you want? Big picture?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the first step before you set that New Year's resolution, before you set that goal that, you know, whatever it has to do with, like, get clear on what you want first, because you might set a goal around something and then you like get halfway down the road and you're like, oh shoot, like this isn't actually tied to anything like the direction I want my life to go in. So I think that for us, like we've done vision boarding with our kids before and that's been really fun to create that like visual illustration.
Cutting up magazines, putting visual pictures of our goals for the year on something that we can look at. Yeah.
Yep. And then taking that, you know, visual representation of what we want our life to look like, and then actually bringing that down to the ground and like setting goals on that to get that stuff done. Like we have a family bucket list, right? Like all these dreams and aspirations. We have family passions, and all of that stuff comes from like, I think those like early years of making those vision boards and kind of like dreaming and getting.
I have a specific one.
Okay.
So when we were early in our marriage, maybe even engaged, somewhere in that stage, in the first little bit, we talked about how my parents served people and helped people for so long, for so many years, and they didn't really get a great vacation during that time. There are little things here and there. Would come back to North America, but that was visiting the people that were supporting us.
They couldn't afford a luxury vacation.
No, couldn't afford a luxury vacation. And so we talked about like, what if we were able to provide that for people?
Well, so those of you who don't know, who are listening, Joben, he has been on many surf trips, and
that doesn't mean I'm great. It just means I love it.
You're pretty good. And he also is an adventure guy, and you have experience on like ATVs and quads and doing all that kind of backcountry stuff and survival things and what have you. I went to beauty school. I went to school to become an esthetician. So I know how to do those types of services, massage and facials and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to toot my horn, but I'm a pretty good cook. And I really love hosting people and nurturing and caring for people. And so early on in our early years, our newlywed years, we talked about, you know, how we could use those gifts to serve other people. And we thought, wouldn't it be cool to open up some sort of a bed and breakfast, or like, you know, some kind of a place where we could where we could serve people using our gifts and give people who maybe couldn't afford a luxury vacation like that type of an experience.
I think the way we pictured it initially is we were like, okay, if we run this like bed and breakfast in a luxury vacation location, and we were looking at Costa Rica, we're looking at several options, we would be able to pay to bring people in by having revenue generating clients who also had the experience, right? And then we'd be able to bring in families that, you know, were committed to making the world a better place, for serving people who couldn't advocate for themselves. Like finding those type of people and saying like, hey, it's hard for you to spend money on yourself. I get it. This is what self-care looks like, and we would love to provide it for you. Yeah. And I said to you, like, what if my parents had more moments of battery recharge? And I think my parents did a great job of living overseas for 25 years and keeping the light on and keeping things going. But how much more how much brighter would the light have been if they could have recharged that battery a bunch of times? And so now we've expanded our business. So we're in Southern California and we're on the island of Oahu. And when we're in one house, we're not in the other house. And so we open that up to our families and to our family and our friends. And we say, hey, go stay there for free. It's a place to stay. The house is there, on Oahu.
Well, whether we're there or not.
Whether we're there or not. When we're there, it's fun we always say we'd love to have you join us when we're at the location.
And we've had many people come and join us when we've been in Hawaii at our house. We've had, friend who has been widowed and has 2 young boys. We've had a whole family come. They came and they were in a tragic time of their lives and they needed a place to stay. We have had people come. A single dad came without his kids and just for a break.
To recharge his batteries.
We've had friends come and join us and it's so fun for us to be able to host people and kind of live out that dream.
Yeah. And they come with small kids and they come to an environment where the kids can run around in their diapers or with their diapers off and they can.
And it blesses them. And so, I love that. Like that was a dream that was planted in our hearts very early on. And there were some roadblocks and setbacks. Like we were just 2 young kids who had this like pipe dream and we didn't have a dollar to our name. And so we were not set up to really like.
We're going to bless you with money we don't have.
But fast forward.
My point was that we named it.
We did, yeah.
And then we went after it, right?
Yeah.
So manifesting, a lot of people think like, well, I've manifested and like I'm still don't have my dream car that I've been manifesting. It's like, okay, well, we manifest, meaning we document and we proclaim it.
Right.
And then we go out and claim it.
Yeah.
And claiming it is an action verb.
Right.
You have to do in order to do it, right? So we did. We did a lot of the work. And I think some of what pushed us through some of the hard times is like, is it a great, cool idea to expand to Oahu and have a business in Hawaii and become really plugged in and in love with that community? Is that cool for us? Is that awesome? Yeah, it's awesome. What pushed us to push through so many hard years before that could come to fruition was we were very intentional about executing this genuine desire to gift doers and world changers with this opportunity. And so when things were hard, we had more than just a desire to expand our life to Hawaii. We had a desire to expand opportunities for people who couldn't do that for themselves. And, that's been a core tenet of what we've done over and over again with our for-profits and our nonprofit. And so I think, I do snicker and laugh when you say manifest it, but it's because so many people define it as just putting it in the universe.
Well,
no, it's like
and woo-woo and all
it's putting it out in the universe, and then it's like revving the engine and chasing after the dream and doing the work, right? So when you say manifest, I'm like, that kind of sells you a little bit short of how hard you've worked on some of the things you've done, because you don't just manifest. You name it, you proclaim it, and then you go and do the work to claim it.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, so one thing that
Hold on, I'm going to stretch my neck out awkwardly.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah.
Now's a great time.
Yeah.
So one thing that we do, when we're talking about calendaring, you mentioned like don't do it on like January 24th for for the year. We spend time together during the week between Christmas and New Year's. It usually takes us like a whole day. We block out a day and we get
about 4 hours or so.
Yeah, really clear on our priorities and I think we both take a clarity break beforehand and like
we come with the notes of things that we like. We're not in that meeting. That would not be a 4-hour meeting.
No.
We're not in that meeting being like, okay, what are some conferences I would like to go to? Like we've researched our dates and we're putting them out there so we're both on the same page, because we also have 5 children and no family that lives near us.
Right.
So we have to coordinate our schedules.
Well, we have to get really realistic about what we can accomplish. And also, I do a lot of journaling and we spend a lot of time like really just figuring out what is meant for us and what is, where are we supposed to be and what is the best path for us like at this time, and figuring out, like you said earlier, like what is, the season of life that we're entering. And we take all of that into account. And so we spend this time during that time of the year, and you can do annual planning at any time of the year. Like I said, this should be a rolling 12 kind of thing. So
and you could plan your start of the year at the beginning of a summer.
Sure.
or at the beginning of a school year.
Right. If you have a
Yeah.
slow season at work, say you're a teacher, and so then the summertime is slower for you, like maybe that's when you want to do annual planning, whatever it is, but take that time and get really intentional. And so we call that annual planning, right?
Yeah.
So we do that annual planning once a year. And we have a strategic planning document with our family where we have our core values, our family bucket list, our goals for the year, and our quarterly priorities and an issues list. And so we're working through that all the time and we're using that tool. So I would really encourage people if they're considering doing this, getting clear on your why, on your core values. That is first and foremost. Understand who you are, what you value, what behaviors you all are expecting from each other, and like get clear on like what those things are.
Yeah.
And then get clear on what your priorities are as a family, like where are you going and how are you going to get there and why, what are those big picture things that you want? Visualize them and bring those visual priorities to life. And bringing it down to the ground and then executing on it requires intentionality and calendaring out your time, because if you are not clear about what you want and getting that on the calendar, like we said earlier with that example of going to the gym, it ain't going to happen. So get clear on what you want, get it down on a calendar, and get more of what you want from life because you deserve it. Like you said earlier, there are only a certain amount of days in the year, a certain amount of hours in a day, and we only have one life to live. So,
And a certain amount of summers with all the kids in your home with you.
Oof.
And we start thinking through that, it's short.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing to note really quickly is that when you prioritize your most importance, you have to be willing and able to sacrifice some of the other things that are important but not most important in order to achieve those. An example would be, when you think of the dream house that you have in Southern California, even just thinking the square footage and the amount of bedrooms that it would take for a 7-family organization like us.
7-member family.
7-member family, sorry. 7-member family, 7-member organization like ours. To be comfortable, like what size house? It would not be our 3-bedroom house.
No.
But when you start talking about having a home in Southern California and having a home on Oahu, which right now is a rental home that we're renting, but we will be buying a home, you have to make sacrifices.
Right.
But it's a much easier to make those sacrifices when it's serving a purpose, when it's serving a bigger goal. And so our goal was that we wanted to actually feel and put in the time and effort and money and feel like we are connected to where our business is located, right? So we used to own businesses in Southern Florida, and we moved there for 3 years to try to accomplish that. At the end of the 3 years, it was like, oh, this is not our place. Now we have one little guy who calls himself Florida Man because he was born there. He rocks a killer mullet, and he thinks everything Florida is God's gift to the planet. The rest of us who actually spent formative years or like some of our adult years there disagree. No knock on Florida, just not our place.
Right.
When we had the opportunity to expand to Oahu, it was like, okay, this is where we're wanting to go. This is where we want to expand. And it's not just to extract dollars from a different location. It's like we want to put roots down. What does that look like? Well, it looks like being over there for 80 days of the year as a family. We want our children to feel connected to our business over there. We want them to feel connected to the community. We want them to understand traditions, current and long-term past historic traditions of the people in the communities who were there before us. And if you want our children to value that, we have to invest financially in that.
And we have to make it a frequent occurrence that we're going there, that we're...
Not once for 80 days. We go 5 times for a total of 80 days.
Right.
Only because of their dumb school schedule. That's the one reason to go back to homeschooling is to free up so we could go there
dude.
whenever we
Never
wanted.
again.
Not happening. But my point just being... when you set your most importance, then the other one, everything below that, which is still important, having enough space to feel like our introverts in the family to feel like they can disconnect and detach from all the people and the chaos.
But you can
right?
bring reasoning to it.
Right.
Like,
So we can say, hey, guys, I understand you each want your own bedroom. Not possible in a 3-bedroom with 7 people. This is not going to happen. But because we're doing this, we also get to have a home on Oahu, and we get to go spend a bunch of time there. We get to surf there during the summers. 4 of our 5 kids love surfing, and that was a dream of mine, right? So again, something that was placed in my heart as a dream was, sitting when I was a single guy sitting on my little blue surfboard in Costa Rica, little 6-0, little fish, just sitting out there. And I was waiting for waves, and I just thought, I was like, I think I must have seen a dad and his son out there, or a family trip. And I was like, man, I would love it if I could surf with my kids someday. And even our child that doesn't surf, we took him out there. We're like, you just got to try it. We took him out there, and he stood up on his first try and surfed. And we're like, okay, it's in his DNA. We got it. But that was like, we had some things that were most important. So all the important things that didn't push that most important forward. Ooh, got off the mic there. All those things that didn't push our most importance further towards happening and towards realization, we were able to not do, and to explain why we didn't do it to our kids. Like, can we just move in a bigger home? Like, why are we doing this and this? Well, being in a smaller home that we got in on a really good mortgage rate before everything went bonkers, changing this home would change our payments. It would change our debt to income ratio. It would change our freedom and flexibility to do fun things, right? And with a family with 5 children, we weren't really intentional. We were very intentional around pursuing this desire to give them a very full life, despite 5 kids, right? Sometimes people are like, oh, I'd never have more than X amount of kids because I just couldn't give them this and this and this. Well, we shower them with love, which is the most important, but then we have our most important. So we're about to go on a trip, and I think that's probably going to be a podcast episode in the future of traveling with children, because we've done it a lot.
So we've traveled with children, but this is a trip.
This is backpacking.
We're going to Peru, and we're going to backpack, and we're going to the jungle, and we're going to the mountains, and
Machu Picchu.
Please pray with us. Pray for us.
Our daughter's going to watch. Our daughter really wants a guinea pig. And our boys are trolling her nonstop, telling her they're going to eat cuy, which is Spanish for guinea pig. So
it's a thing in Peru.
It's a thing. So it's going to be interesting. Like, that's because of a prioritization. We said, hey, we want our kids to see more of the world.
Yeah. One of our family passions is international travel, right? And so in order to do that, like, just like you're saying, like, in order to have a life that we live in Southern California and on Oahu, Hawaii, we have to make some sacrifices, and that looks like living in a smaller house. And so
let me hit you with this statement real quick and tell me how you process it. So we go on a family trip, right?
Okay.
We go for 3 weeks to South America.
Okay.
All the kids have nice hiking backpacks, their Walmart disposable shoes, and we go on this trip, and then somebody goes online, or you post a picture, somebody goes on and they just say, "Must be nice." Where do you feel?
I feel like, yeah, it is.
What do they when they compress it down to a must be nice statement of look what you get to do, must be nice. Yeah. When they break it down to that, what are they totally ignoring and discrediting and not understanding?
Everything.
Okay,
everything.
wow.
I think that what people are discrediting is everything that it takes to get you to where
the must be nice experience.
Yeah. Because it takes sacrifice. It takes boundaries. It takes
What did our kids think go-karting was for the first 6 years they were alive?
Oh, like riding in a shopping cart through an empty parking lot.
Yeah, that was go-karting.
Our we live 20 minutes down the road from Disneyland. We've never been to Disney. We don't have Disney passes. We don't, there are things that we just don't do because we make those sacrifices in order to be able to do other things. So, people can say must be nice all the live long day, but like they just don't know what it takes to get to that point to live out those luxuries. So like luxuries to me in life might be different than the luxuries to someone else. For me, it's like peace of mind, slow mornings, freedom to choose. There are things to me that are luxurious that aren't like I don't own a Birkin bag. I don't even
know what a Birkin bag is.
It's okay. I don't own Chanel. I don't own, my clothes are Target.
I own a Chanel
Amazon
changer for the TV. Oh. Dad joke.
But what I'm getting at is like we make sacrifices in order to get what we want, right? And so we do that in various ways in our life. That's how we get what we want. When people...
go ahead, sorry.
When people say it must be nice, I just don't think that they've fully thought through the big picture or maybe the little picture. They don't know they don't see behind the scenes. They don't know the micro, choices and decisions that we make.
When people, for me, it's when people see the final product and they're like, must be nice.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, I'm like, yeah, it is really nice, because what it took to get here was not nice.
Right.
And so I did that. I was willing to do it. And we talk about this. We have opportunities in, living in North America that you just don't have in other parts of the world.
Right.
We get that. We're very appreciative of it. And we value it because we have lived and experienced other life
realities,
yep. Right? And so for us, we understand that this is a land of opportunity. It means that there are opportunities that are not available in other lands, right? But no one gives it to you. You have to go out and work for it. And the land of opportunity means that you can do all the work and it cannot end up where you want it to be, because it's an opportunity. It's not a guarantee. Mm-hmm. It's not the land of guarantees. It's the land of opportunity.
Yep.
And so when they say it must be nice, I'm like, yeah, it is nice, because we did a lot of things that were not fun, were not enjoyable.
Not nice.
They were not nice. They were hungry times. And it could have ended up with nothing we dreamed of.
Right.
But we were willing to do that. We were willing to go through that for the potential of a higher ceiling, mm-hmm. right? So I think a lot of people, they accept a faster pathway towards certain goals and achievements, which is guaranteed by following the prescribed path and rules, right? An entrepreneur says like, okay, I get it. I get it. There's a road that goes right to there, but I bet I could get to there if I went off the path and made my own trail.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's no actual end of the path, because I'm building the path.
Yep.
And so I can go much further. And so most of the time, we've talked about this in another episode, we've been in business for 15 years. Most businesses fail in the first 2 to 3. Majority are gone within 5 years, right? So statistics say you're going to go off the path and you're going to take a machete and you're just going to like blaze this trail, and it's going to end up nowhere. And you're going to backtrack and you're going to get back on the other one. And that's what your life's going to be. And then you're going to go off again and try again and again. So when the path works and then people hold it against you, when you're like, but I took all the risk. I didn't have enough food to feed my kids. I didn't have enough gas to put in the car. I had to pick which credit card to fix a car with so that I could get to the next income generating opportunity, another soccer camp I was going to run. And I managed that stress, that stress that gives most people an ulcer. I managed it and lived in it for years because I
came out the other side.
And I came out the other side. And now I'm up for air. And I'm in a place where I'm able to finally help people in a real, practical, tangible way with resources, financial resources to invest in other people's, the desires of other people's hearts, whether it's a family vacation or whether it's helping people internationally with some of the projects we do. And so I'm like, something rises in me a little bit mm-hmm. that I'm now at 46 able to calm back down before I say anything. But the immediate response is like, yes, it is nice. And like, you should have seen how bad it was. Where were you then? How come you weren't feeding my family? Like, that's the snarky, like snappy response that probably came out liberally earlier in life. But at 46, I'm like, okay, yeah, it is nice. Thank you. We feel very, very blessed. We feel blessed that our hard work paid off. We did the hard work. We did all the things we needed to do to make this happen, but it still wasn't a guarantee. And so, yes, it is very nice that it worked out and that the opportunity was realized. I think people...
And look, it's still not a guarantee.
No.
Nothing's a guarantee.
Nothing's a guarantee.
Tomorrow isn't guaranteed. So live life to the fullest.
Yeah.
Like, it's all you've got, right?
Yeah.
So...
And our joy comes from the pursuit,
Absolutely.
And so like your client, like your client portfolio, it ebbs and flows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in 1 week you could gain, lifetime projected out $80,000 worth of revenue off gaining a couple clients in 1 week. You could also lose a couple clients, do the math and be like, I just lost out on $50,000 over the next 4 years, right? Mm-hmm. That's a lot of vacations. Like you can get or a lot of things and a lot of comfort mm-hmm. that just disappeared overnight, right? And so the fact that we take such joy in the pursuit of opportunity, which we both do, it allows us to stay sane, right? And so when things don't work, it's like, well, nothing was guaranteed. This is part of the fun, and in those moments you're like, fun. But one want to highlight that I love that people say about us. Not it's something that I don't say about us. It's something that people say about us. And I'm going to quote my good friend Scott Sustad, one of the people that we've been able to invite multiple times to come and enjoy some of our space on Oahu and here in Southern California. A dear friend. He said, "You guys are doers." And I was like, "Oh, what an amazing thing to be known for." And it's amazing when someone sees that in you. Like, I think about our nonprofit. We started all that work in 2012 and we didn't tell anybody for years. Because we see so many people claim credit for future work that they never do, or some even intend to do. And we were like, we're not going to be like that. And so we're not going to tell anybody what we're doing, right? We're going to run this company. We're going to build this soccer company, do a really good job. We're just going to do it. It's going to be awesome. And then we're going to do all these other things and build soccer field in South America for the community where I grew up, build this amazing soccer field, do all these, which we're going to go see in like 2 weeks for the first time. We built it like 3 years ago. To have somebody that you respect, a fellow entrepreneur who really wants to make the world a better place with everything he does, for him to look at you and say like, "You guys are just doers. It's just who you are." It's like, wow. That when you're seen by somebody else who thinks similarly to you, and he identifies so succinctly exactly the core of what it is that has made you successful, like, I think that goes back to the very beginning of what she says, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so busy." You can be so busy doing busy work, right? We hear it all the time, like, just launch the company. Like, you've worked so long and spent so many months getting the font right and the logo right. Launch the freaking company.
Progress over perfection.
Yeah, I love this statement. If you're not embarrassed by the first iteration of what you put out there, then you waited way too long. Yeah. And so, to be a talker who's identified as a doer is a massive compliment. Ultimately. So Scott Sustad, you probably had no idea how big a compliment that was on a personal and professional level, to be seen as doers. So I think that's what it comes down to. We talk about, wow, you guys look so busy. It's like, because we're doing a lot, but we're not doing a lot of busy work. We hire great people. We outsource. We delegate well. We've had a lot of practice doing it. We delegate well. And two people who are uniquely wired to excel in the task or role that we've delegated. I think that's something that you and I have both excelled at. We've attracted really high quality people and been willing to teach things to them instead of expect them to be at a certain bar. And that goes back to the values. Maybe finish this session talking about how you use your values to attract the right people and know that you're working with the right person. I would love for you to specifically, we have lots of examples from our companies and stuff, but you have one employee who works with you in your EOS company, and you could not be matched with a better person. And it has little to do with her exceptional ability to execute, and it has everything to do with the values and alignment. So maybe talk to me a little bit about Ellie and what makes that such a great fit and how you're able to do so much more because of the exceptional alignment between you and your assistant.
Yep. So I'm a one-woman show. I have a business coaching practice and I don't have any employees, but I have an amazing, incredible assistant. And I don't consider her an employee. I consider her my practice manager. She helps me do all the things that I need to do. And she really keeps the ship afloat. I hired her through a great organization called Efficient Aid.
Plug that in the comments. We'll put that down in there. Efficient Aid.
Efficient Aid is a wonderful organization that matches people with virtual assistants. Ellie is a virtual assistant. She's located in San Diego and I'm up here in Orange County. So we are relatively close.
We saw her last week.
Yeah. So, but yeah, she was expertly matched to me. And, one thing when you said that came to mind was, this is a perfect example, is that I had a client and he told me in an email that, he was getting his stuff together for our next session and he'd be sending it to me and he's trying to figure things out, but to give him a little bit of grace because his wife was having a hip surgery next Tuesday and yada, yada. So Ellie she saw that and she went ahead and put in on my calendar a reminder to text my client that day to ask him about how his wife's surgery went. And that is like so something that I would do. Like if I was somebody's assistant, I would do that. And the fact that she did that without me asking her to do that, that's not a process. That's not something that we do. That's just something that she innately knew that I would want to do. And she put that in on my calendar as a reminder.
And it was important to her.
Right.
And so I think she's able to see there. It's the alignment, right?
Right.
You've attracted someone who values the things that are important to you.
Absolutely.
And they're important to her too.
Yeah.
And so it makes the partnership even stronger.
Yeah.
I said I wouldn't use partnership with employees, but you said she wasn't an employee. So
right. Yeah.
You're a practice manager.
Yeah. So that's just an example of how, like, when you're clear on what you want, you're clear on your values, on who you are, and you make decisions like hiring her. That was a decision. She's holding all the cards for me, right? Like, she's a very important person in my life, and making that decision to hire her is not one that I took lightly, but I knew that, like, just right from the jump when I met her, like, that was a values aligned person in my life.
And she was not an expense. She was an investment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that investment pays off much more quickly and with much less pain and difficulty and challenge and misunderstanding when you're aligned.
Yeah. And she absolutely helps me get what I want from my life.
Yep.
So we're going to wrap things up. And, if you want to be a doer like we are, join the Better Together community of doers. Get more of what you want from your business, from your life, from your family, from your year. Get clear on your priorities. Visualize what you want, bring that vision down to the ground, and get really intentional about planning out your priorities on your calendar, doing annual planning. All that good stuff will help you get more of what you want. Do that because you deserve it. And yeah, I love getting more of what I want with you.
I love you.
Love you too.